Once upon a time, in a lush, vibrant village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there lived two sisters whose lives were as extraordinary as the stars that lit the night sky. Their names were Abiba and Amara, and though their beginnings were shrouded in mystery, their destiny would forever change the lives of those who crossed their path. The abandoned babies. Years earlier, on a misty morning, a hunter named Nkoyo Obasi was returning home after a long and exhausting hunt. The forest was alive with the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves, but as he trudged along the narrow bush path, a faint, heart-wrenching cry pierced the air. It was the cry of a baby, soft, desperate, and unmistakable. Nkoyo froze, his senses sharpening as he followed the sound. His footsteps quickened, and soon he stumbled upon a woven basket hidden beneath the shade of a towering baobab tree. Inside the basket lay two beautiful babies, their tiny faces glowing like the morning sun. They were wrapped in fine cloth embroidered with golden threads, a sign that they were no ordinary children. Nkoyo's heart swelled with a mix of shock and compassion. He looked around, calling out, "Who has left these precious ones here? Is anyone there?" But the forest remained silent, save for the rustling of leaves. His conscience would not allow him to leave the babies to the mercy of the wild, so he carefully cradled the basket and carried them home, his mind racing with questions. Who were these children? Why had they been abandoned? And why did they seem to radiate an almost otherworldly aura? A wife's cold heart. Nkoyo's wife, Idara, was a woman hardened by years of disappointment. For over a decade, she had longed for a child of her own, but her prayers had gone unanswered. Her heart had grown bitter, and her once kind eyes now bore the weight of unfulfilled dreams. When Nkoyo burst into their humble hut, his face beaming with joy as he presented the twins, Idara's reaction was not what he had hoped for. "God has finally blessed us with twins," Nkoyo exclaimed, his voice trembling with excitement. "Look at them, Idara. They are a gift." But Idara's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Take them back," she hissed. "These are not our children. They belong to the bush. Return them to where you found them." Nkoyo was stunned. He pleaded with her, explaining how he had found the babies abandoned and alone. He described their delicate features, their tiny hands clutching at the air, and the way they seemed to calm when he held them. But Idara was unmoved. "If you keep them," she said coldly, "I will have nothing to do with them. They are not my responsibility." Heartbroken but determined, Nkoyo decided to raise the twins himself. He fed them mashed yam and palm oil, bathed them in warm water scented with herbs, and sang them lullabies at night, hoping that one day Idara's heart would soften. But as the years passed, Idara's resentment only grew. She refused to acknowledge the twins, even when they called her mother. She would scream at them, "I am not your mother. You are cursed children, abandoned by the bush." The twins grew up in a home filled with tension and neglect. They learned to rely on each other, finding solace in their bond. But their lives were far from easy. Most days, they went hungry until Nkoyo returned from his hunts. Idara would sit in silence, her eyes cold and unfeeling, as the children cried out for food. The twins' only comfort was each other and the small moments of kindness Nkoyo could offer when Idara wasn't watching. A turning point. One fateful day, Amara felt terribly ill. Her small body trembled with fever, and her cries of pain echoed through the hut. Nkoyo was away hunting, and Idara, as usual, turned a blind eye. She busied herself with her chores, grinding cassava into flour and weaving baskets, ignoring the child's suffering. By the time Nkoyo returned, Amara's condition had worsened. Her skin was pale, her breathing shallow, and her tiny body drenched in sweat. Nkoyo's heart shattered as he scooped her up and rushed her to the village herbalist. The herbalist's face was grave as he examined Amara. "If you had brought her any later," he said, "she would not have survived." Those words haunted Nkoyo. How could Idara be so cruel? How could she watch a child suffer and do nothing? The twins escaped. As the twins grew older, Idara's hatred only intensified. One day, in a fit of rage, she dragged them out of the house, screaming, "You have brought nothing but bad luck to this home. Leave now and never return." The twins, terrified and heartbroken, wandered into the village with nowhere to go. They walked for hours, their small feet aching, until they collapsed under a large tree, exhausted and hungry. It was there that they met Mem, a kind-hearted woman from a neighboring village. Mem had been praying for a child for over 5 years, and when she saw the twins, her heart melted. "What are you doing here, all alone?" she asked gently. The twins burst into tears, their small voices trembling as they told her their story. Mem's eyes filled with compassion. "Come with me," she said, extending her hand. "You will be safe in my home." A new beginning. From that day on, the twins' lives transformed. Mem and her husband, Buma, welcomed them with open arms, treating them as their own. For the first time, Abiba and Amara experienced the warmth of a mother's love. Mem bathed them in scented water, fed them hearty meals of fish stew and plantains, and sang them lullabies at night. She called them her good luck charms, and soon it seemed as though her words held truth. Mem, who had struggled with infertility, became pregnant. Their failing businesses began to flourish, and their home was filled with laughter and joy. The twins thrived under Mem's care, their once pale cheeks now rosy with health. They called her mother, and the sound of that word brought tears to her eyes. Idara's downfall. Meanwhile, Idara's life took a dark turn. Her bitterness consumed her, and her marriage to Nkoyo crumbled. She became obsessed with the idea that the twins had taken her good luck with them. One day, she had a vivid dream in which the twins handed her 2 large boxes, but she refused to take them. When she woke, she was consumed by regret and desperation. Idara and Nkoyo searched for the twins, but it was too late. The twins had found a new family, a new life, and Idara's chance at redemption had slipped through her fingers. The royal revelation. One day, as Mem and the twins returned from the market, they were greeted by a grand procession. The queen of the village had arrived, accompanied by guards and maidens. The queen's eyes filled with tears as she embraced the twins. "My daughters," she whispered, "I have found you at last." The queen revealed the truth. Abiba and Amara were royal princesses, stolen from the palace by a jealous rival. The twins' presence had brought prosperity to Mem's home, just as they had been destined to bring good fortune to the kingdom. Mem was honored for her kindness, and the queen bestowed upon her riches and blessings beyond measure. As for Idara, she was left to face the consequences of her cruelty. Her life became a shadow of what it once was, a stark reminder of the cost of hatred and neglect. The lesson. The story of Abiba and Amara is a timeless tale of love, kindness, and the power of destiny. It teaches us that every child is a gift, and that the way we treat others can shape our own fate.